assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I have text 32, right? Oh, text chapter 2. Pretty sure that's right. Okay. On this 27th day of April 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, text number 32. Okay. Page 100. Oh, you have your... You need a book? You got books, so many books. All right, page 100. Yadvichaya Chopapannam Svarga Dwaram Apavitam Sukhinah Kshatriyaha Partha Labhante Yudham Idrisham Yadrichya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudhamidrisham Yadrichya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudhamidrisham Yadrichya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudhamidrisham. Prajamna Prabhu. Do you want to chant? Huh? Okay. Tapas Prabhu. Oh, you were working on there. Go ahead. Yadrichaya. No, it's the C is pronounced like a CH. Cha, cha. Chopapannam. Yadrichaya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavitam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudhamidrisham. Time for dinner. You're the last, unless you want to try it, Joseph. Okay, so I think Yadvichaya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavitam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudhamidrisham. Yadrichaya Chopapannam Svagadvaram Apavritam Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Labhante Yudham Idrisham. Some people online. Anyone online want to try? It's their first time. Give me a break. I know, I'm just...
Hare Krishna, we were having some technical issues. I think Tapas Prabhu's got them worked out. Prem Gopal, do you want to go ahead?
I think I might have to pass this time, Prabhu. I'm so sorry. I didn't even hear the meter, and like I haven't. Yeah, I think I would have to hear it again. Maybe Bhakti Chad, you go, and then I'll try.
Go ahead, Chad.
Hare Krishna. Yadrichaya chopapanam.
Yadrichaya chopapannam.
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Sukhina chatriya parta.
Sukhina chatriya parta.
Labante idam idrisham.
Labande yudham idrisham. Want to give it a shot, Prema?
Yadrachaya kopapanam.
Yadrichaya chopapannam.
Swargadvaram aparvatam.
Swargadvaram apavritam.
Sukhina kshatriya parta.
Sukhina kshatriya parta.
Labante yudam idrisham.
Labande yudham idrisham. Anyone else there? Okay, thank you. Word by word, Yadrichaya, by its own accord, cha, also, upapannam, arrived at, swarga, of the heavenly planets, dwaram, door, apavritam, wide open, sukhinaha, very happy, kshatriyaha, the members of the royal order, parta, O son of Pita, that's Kunti, labante, do achieve, yudham, war, idrisham, like this. Translation, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Purport. As Supreme Teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who said, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Close quote. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of his specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be on the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parashara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastapani padandiyam nirjitya padasainyadi chitim dharmena palayet. The Kshatriya's, quote, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he is to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus, with religious principles, he should rule over the world. Parashara Smriti 161. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Sāṅkhya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna is now giving, how can I say it, a material reason why Arjuna didn't fight. The spiritual reason was basically that Krishna wanted it to happen, and that it would reinstitute the rule of Dharma in the world, in the person of Yudhishthira and his brothers. But also, now because Krishna was speaking from all angles here, a Kshatriya, a real Kshatriya, of course, is fighting for, has certain characteristics. He, first of all, has to be courageous, and he has to have the fighting spirit. You know, in other words, I could never be a Kshatriya. But anyway, the Krishna is speaking. You remember, there's this whole long lesson on the soul, 20 verses, I think, from 11th verse when he started speaking his lesson to text 30. And it's all about the soul. You know, dehinos minyata dehe, just as the living soul passes through various stages in this life, from childhood to adolescence to middle age to old age, like that. Similarly, the soul attains another body at death. In other words, we don't die. What dies is our physical body. The understanding that we ourselves are not the material body, but rather pure spirit. And that there's a great distinction between that. The body is obviously temporary. That's not a mystery. But the soul is eternal. We never were born, and we will never die. Now that means, obviously, that we've had previous life or lives, which we forgot. And we will also have a future life. And as I've mentioned so many times before, and this is central to the Bhagavad Gita, in the human form of life, we have the ability to understand knowledge, that this knowledge, and act in such a way that will perfect our lives and make this our last embodiment, material embodiment. Like we're going to have a future life, it can be purely spiritual. This is the idea, is that each soul, every soul, not just in human bodies, but every living being, wherever you see the symptoms of life, consciousness, it's hard to see it in the plants sometimes, although they're growing and they'll also turn their leaves so they can catch the sun, A very rudimentary consciousness. But today, as I had a harbinger of the spring and summer season, when bugs start to get into the temple, and they're crawling around on the floor, I said, wait, watch out, you don't want to crush them, Of course, if they do get crushed, it's the most suspicious death because there's probably a kirtan going on. But aside from that, we want to save them, so throw them outside, So there was this little spider. No one saw it but me. I was doing the puja, a little daddy long legs, very thin. No one could see him practically. But I saw him crawling, and I said, well, how am I going to do it? So I took my tissues and went to catch him. Threw him outside, but then when I got back, I said, he's still there. I missed him. So, and he was crawling. Huh? There were two? You noticed there were two? Wow. I just saw one. I'm sure there were probably more than two. So I had a second go at him, and I had more tissues, and I got him. This time I got him outside, closed the door, and he didn't kill him. There's a living being there, It's what kind of activities did it perform to take that body, this fragile little body with 8 legs, crawling around on the floor. But that's what this world is made of. You go by, and there's precious few lawns nearby, to see. But if you go up one of the other streets, Everett's or Dawes, you'll see some actual lawns, and some of them are astroturf, but some of them are actually lawns. And there's each one of those blades of grass is another living entity, I think, generally, So there are millions and billions and trillions of living beings just within this earth that are not human. And each one of them is totally incapable of understanding this science. We find that most of the human beings in this Kali Yuga are incapable because they have no interest, because they're too absorbed in the hard struggle for existence, trying to enjoy and this and that. But the fortunate few who are open to this philosophy and understanding how to solve all the problems of life. What are those problems? Let's review again. This is one of the things you learn in day 2 or 3 or 1, in the Hare Krishna movement, used to be anyway. So, first of all, there's the famous birth, old age, disease, and death. And I like to put them in that order because that's the order that you generally find them. Sure, there's disease when you're younger, but as you get older, disease automatically comes. And finally, the body just gives out because it's just a complicated machine. So, birth, old age, and disease, and death. Now, most people who have no understanding of the soul think, well, yeah, this is just what life is all about, So therefore, we live in a YOLO FOMO society. You know what YOLO is? You know what YOLO is? Right? You only live once. And then what is FOMO? Fear of missing out. Okay, exactly. So think about it. If you only live once, then, and there's a certain number of, time is expiring, you want to try to enjoy as much as possible. And if I see this, my friends are enjoying it, I'm not, I miss out, so I try to get it. But the point is that this is a tragic view of life because it doesn't take into account the central fact that you won't die, that you're making your future with every day, everything you do, everything you think, whatever you hear, see, do, with your active senses and your knowledge acquiring senses. And so, at least we want to try to do what Krishna is speaking about here. He's talking about attaining heaven, right? Material heaven. This is kind of. So if I'm going to have a future life, how can I go to heaven? and enjoy up there. So there's a whole section of the Vedas for that, Karma Kanda, where you can perform certain sacrifices and say certain mantras and worship Indra or Surya. At one point, Krishna says that if you want to go to the heavenly planets, you worship the demigods. If you want to go to the Pitri Loka, you go worship the Pitris. Those who worship the Bhutas and the Pretas will take birth among such beings. Those are the ghosts and the hobgoblins, And those who worship me will come to me. This is actually, intelligent. So what I'm saying is that here, Krishna is kind of stepping back a little bit from his explanation of the soul and describing the duty of a Kshatriyas. That Kshatriyas are happy to get a battle like this, Happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Well, Arjuna doesn't want to go to the heavenly planets, and Krishna doesn't want him to go there. There's several passages in the Gītā where he condemns that. But it's another reason for Arjuna to fight. In other words, if he's fighting to go to the heavenly planets, he'll still be fighting on the side of good, and he'll get all the benefit. But of course, he's not going to do that. But Arjuna, ultimately will want to fight because Krishna wants him to fight, and he sees that, as Krishna says to him, even if you don't fight, they're all dying anyway. This is my plan. Is that all of these other what does he say? Yadaya dahi dharmasa glane bhavati bharata abhyudanama dharmasya tadatmanam sajamiham. Whenever yadaya dharmasa glane, there are all these discrepancies in dharma, and adharma, or irreligion, becomes prominent on the earth. At that time, I come to the earth, I manifest myself, I appear. Why? Paratanaya sadhunam, to protect the sadhus, to come and trade the sadhus. And vinashaya chadushkatam, the dushkatas are the demons, and to destroy them, you see. And thus to reestablish dharma, dharma samstapanartaya. I appear again and again in order to do that. So this is Krishna's mission. And Arjuna is a very intimate servant of Krishna. He's a friend. And he finally sees that, yes, my duty is to help Krishna in his mission. That's what we basically do. And so therefore at the end of the whole Gita, he says, Karishe vachanam tava. All right, I will do as you say, Krishna, I will fight. In other words, he surrenders. But here, Krishna is giving him, a standard reason why Kshatriyas fight is to go to the heavenly planets. Svargadwaram, it opens the door to the higher planets. And so real Kshatriyas are happy when some fighting, this such opportunities come. But Arjuna, what was what was stopping him? The other side was filled with his friends, his worshipful guru, his grandfather figure in the form of Bhishma. In other words, if he had gone to that no man's land, right? That was the request. Please take my chariot between the two armies. I want to see who's here to fight. So he looks on the other side, and if he saw all kinds of strangers and Kshatriyas, he would hesitate. Oh, let's go for it, But instead, he saw Bhishma and Drona, and it was basically the Kurus fighting the Kurus. The Pandavas were also Kurus, but Dhritarashtra and company, wanted to take that away from them, so they would have less claim to the throne. But so this is kind of a little interval where Krishna is giving another reason why Arjuna should fight, because it'll open the doors to heaven. In other words, the logic is, all right, suppose you get killed, you go to heaven. And if you win, you'll enjoy the kingdom on it. So it's a win-win situation. But if you don't fight, as he will say here, if or if you don't perform, then the other side, all the other fighters who have gathered here, will see, oh, you just left out of cowardice, And for one who's been honored as a great warrior, such insults, such speaking is worse than death. To be dishonored that way, he says. So from every angle of vision, just to keep your good name as a Kshatriya, even if you get killed, that's better than going off, giving up your duty, and taking on a role that you're really not suited for, which is a mendicant, like that. That's not what he's suited for. He's trained and he's expert in fighting, and especially for a good cause. So Krishna is simply getting him from every kind of angle here. Okay, let's go on. Text 33. Atachetvam amam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsasi. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Purport. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord, Shiva, and received as a reward a weapon called the Pashupatastra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. Wow. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adoptive father, Indra. I think that adoptive was changed because Indra didn't adopt him. Indra actually was his real father. We just took adoptive, including his father, Indra. The heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from the battle. All right, going on. Akirtim chapi bhutani katayashyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirti mananada dirichyate. All right, along the same lines. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Purport. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you a coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw. Well, he wasn't saying, okay, die in the battle. He was saying, fight in the battle, and if you die, then you'll still have your fame and everything, and you go to the heavenly planets. Win-win. But if you don't fight in the battle, then you won't physically die, but your fame will be gone, and that'll be worse than death. For one who has once been honored, then infamy is worse than death. I think that comes up. He mentions that. So he's going on in this vein now. He's addressing him not, with the spiritual knowledge and not the body, but on the level of him being a great Kshatriya, and that this is shameful for you to not fight. Bhayad upadatam Mangsyante tvam maharataha Yesham chatvam bahumato Bhutpayasasi lagavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Purport. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Quote, do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Kṛṣṇa, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Abachavadam shabahun Vadishyanti tabahitaha Dindantashtava samarthyam Tato dukkataram nukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Purport. Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning at Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion, and he described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion. 37. Hato va prapsyasi svargam. Jitva va bhokshase mahim. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya. Yudhaya kutanishchayaha. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up and with determination and fight. Purport. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight. For even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. Sukha-dukkhe samekritva. Labha jaya jayo. Tato yudhaya yujyasva. Naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he, Krishna, desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. It is said, I'll say, you say, Devarshi bhutaptanvinam patrinam nakinkado nayam vrini charajan Savatmanayak sharanang sharanyam Kato mukundam padihrityakartam. Anyone who is completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor he is obliged to anyone. Not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. Bhagavad Gita 11.5.41. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse. And the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. So this verse is quite important. Prabhupada often says, just by living on the earth, we can live in complete ignorance and not accept this. But we understand that, for instance, the sun, Surya, there's a sun god and there's a sun, and it's giving us heat and light, making the plants grow so we can survive. We obviously need the sun all the time. So, but we just take it for granted. But there's a sun god who is there and who is directing all this. So we're debtors. We should be thankful for the sun. There's the Varuna, even Indra, giving the rain. So aside from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of course, we should also feel grateful to. There are all of these other agents that just like Prabhupada would give the example. Okay, we turn on the light switch, take it for granted, the light goes on, so many things, the computer goes on and everything. But we got to pay the electric bill, right? We have to worship the San Diego, what is it? I forget, but every month we pay. Otherwise, if you don't pay, then it gets cut off. So here we go. Deva, Rishi, Bhuta, Apta. There's a list here. Okay, this is what I brought this for. Time out. This little iPod is not so great. Okay. So the Devas, those are the gods who supply the water, the sunlight, and everything else. Bhuta, other living beings. Just the police and people who we depend on for so many things. Bhutapta and Rinam, human beings in general, the forefathers who we depend on for to get birth. Kinkara, servants. Naya Mrinicharan, you don't remain a debtor to them. Otherwise you do. Rini means a debtor. If someone is sarvabhanik sharanam sharanyam, gato mukundam, if someone is with all his soul and his body, mind, and words has taken shelter, sharanam, of mukunda, then he doesn't owe anybody anything. You see? Because everyone who's giving you those things are getting it from Krishna. The sun god gets all his power from Krishna and everything. So if you're worshiping Krishna, then all your debts are, it's just like you can consolidate your credit card debts sometimes and just pay once a month, something. I've never been a debtor, so I don't know for sure, but I heard you can do that. But that's the idea. If you just surrender to Krishna and serve him nicely, then all the demigods are happy, you know, because it's like watering the root of a tree. You know, then everyone gets. So, how does this pertain to it? Well, that happens. Okay. So here he's saying that, you know, Arjuna shouldn't. First he says, fight because you can go to heaven, or at least, you know, if you don't do that, then if you die, then you do that, and if you win, then you get the kingdom. So it's win-win. But now he's saying, forget about heaven. You know, go to heaven. Just fight for the sake of fighting, for the sake of doing your duty, without considering happiness, loss or gain, victory or defeat. So this is the mood actually of a devotee. The perfection is in the desire to serve Krishna and in trying to serve Krishna with whatever facility you have. Even if you fail, something doesn't happen, you shouldn't feel depressed, you know. I mean, Krishna is happy that you made the effort. Whereas on the material plane, you know, if you don't succeed, if you have some assignment from your boss and you don't succeed, you may well get fired, you know, so you can't afford to fail, you know. So it's all very fruitive. So that's what he's telling him here. Fight for the sake of fighting and doing your duty. You remember, this all started because Arjuna, after having his whole argument why he didn't want to fight, says, well, I'm bewildered. Karpanya dosho bhata svabhava prichami tvam dharma samhuda cheta. That this miserly attitude, I realize, karpanya dosha, has stolen away my actual nature as a kshatriya. Upahata svabhava. Svabhava means your natural, you know, tendency, your proclivity. So I'm asking you, please, to tell me for certain. Prichami tvam dharma samhuda. Tell me, who am bewildered about what's the right thing for me to do. How I can act according to my duty and attain ultimate good. Yakshreya ksyan. How my real shreya can come into being. I'll be happy and I'll know I'm doing the right thing. Nishtitam bruhitam. Tell me for certain, you know. Then the final line is very important. Nishtitam bruhitam. Shishyasteham. I am your disciple now. I want to be in the role of your disciple, not your friend, because as Prabhupada makes point several times, arguing, go back and forth with friends, you know, forever, and there's never any conclusion. But if one is a disciple, then he has to take the words of the Guru as divine, which they are, in this case especially. Shadiman tvam papandam, I surrender unto you. That's, you know, a very important verse, so it's changed everything, the relationship. And then Krishna begins his instruction a few verses later. So this is all part of it, obviously. And he's giving him all kinds of angles of vision to look at the idea of fighting, and it all comes to that your best deal is to fight. Even if you're just fighting for material purposes. You win the battle, you'll enjoy the kingdom. You die, it's a religious fight, you'll go to heaven. You know, so where's the loss, you see? But the loss is, you know, for Arjuna, oh, my beloved guru, my beloved teacher, and all my relatives and friends are on the other side. I'm going to be implicated. I just can't even think about, you know, killing them or being instrumental in killing them. That's it was completely material point of view. So Krishna is saying, give that up. All right. Now, Krishna is going to change gears a little bit here. Eshate bihita Sāṅkhya buddhi-yoga timam shinu buddhya-yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruit of results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Purport. According to the Nirukti, or Vedic dictionary, Sāṅkhya means that which describes things in detail. And Sāṅkhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. Okay, it's text 39. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sāṅkhya in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. This Sāṅkhya has nothing to do with the Sāṅkhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sāṅkhya, the Sāṅkhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him, Kapila, that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gītā. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Now Prabhupada is paraphrasing a verse in the 7th chapter, which some of you may recognize. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam papadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many, many births, Bahunam Jamanamante, one who is truly wise, Jnanavan, surrenders unto me, Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva, Krishna. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, understanding that Vasudeva is everything. Now, how is Vasudeva everything? Well, when we analyze, this is part of the Sambandha Gyan, what is this world? What am I? Where does it come from? So what are we experiencing now? Well, we're experiencing two energies, right? We're all living beings here. You're listening, you're thinking. But at the same time, we're surrounded by different varieties of material energy. All this solid matter here that makes up the building, and this and everything like that. That is the bhumi, bhumar, apo, anano, vayu, kangmano, buddhadevacha, ahankara, ityama, binna, pakadadashchada. Krishna gives these 8 material energies, progressively more subtle. So is earth. There's liquids. We got the nice fountain here, right? And we got the blood flowing in our veins. These are all liquids, and they're an essential part of our environment. Anala, fire. There's fire. We got the electricity burning these even lighting these lamps, obviously, which originally comes from the sun. In our own bodies, the fire of digestion is there. How we be able to subsist with the food. So fire is very important. Vayu, of course, air, and so many other gases, but air has a mixture of gases, very important. Anula, vayu, kang. So that's the ether, space. Everything is going on within the space. And then the mind, intelligence, and ego, our own subtle body, which when the gross body dies, those elements don't die. The subtle body continues and carries us to the next body. That'll be very graphically explained in the 15th chapter near the beginning. So this is our environment. And but we have to recognize, okay, that's the environment that we live in, but that's not us. The soul is beyond all of these. And the whole mission of the soul, if we are intelligent, is to how to break free from the different kinds of bodies composed of these material elements, which really restrict us tremendously. And how to live in that consciousness. That's, this buddhi-yoga, and Prabhupada will describe here. All right, so I think I didn't read this whole purport, did I? So it's Arjuna has already accepted, right? Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. I quoted this, Shishisteham Shadiman Tham Papannam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in buddhi-yoga, or karma-yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for sense gratification of the Lord. So Prabhupada here equates karma-yoga, buddhi-yoga with bhakti-yoga, because it's all elements. Karma-yoga means you're acting free of the desire for the fruit, But karma yoga, when it culminates in bhakti, it means you're acting not for your own desire, but for Krishna's desire. Otherwise, being, just working and then not desiring the fruits, that's a kind of yoga also, which can give you peace of mind because you're not bound by all of this, lamentation because it doesn't produce the fruit that you were hoping, So karma yoga is there, and buddhi yoga, Prabhupada equates that oftentimes with bhakti yoga because it obviously involves the intelligence, the buddhi. So everything that you're doing is with this intention of this is part of my duty of acting in order to please Krishna, and you're aware of that. Every motion, every breath, everything you're doing is connected. So you're in yoga through your intelligence acting, and that also. Is an integral part of bhakti yoga, obviously, All right. So where am I? Third paragraph? Yeah, that's the buddhi yoga. That's the buddhi yoga mentioned in this verse? Is that where I stop? Middle of the second paragraph. Middle of the second paragraph. This buddhi-yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. Tesham satadiyuktanam vajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi-yogam tam yena mamapi yandite. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. Though one who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of buddhi-yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only by those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does He reward the pure knowledge of devotion and love. In that way, the devotee can reach Him easily in the ever-blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the buddhi-yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word Sāṅkhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sāṅkhya enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not, therefore, misunderstand that the Sāṅkhya yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sāṅkhya. Nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. But real Sāṅkhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But even that Sāṅkhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here Sāṅkhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of buddhi-yoga or bhakti-yoga. Therefore Lord Krishna's Sāṅkhya and Lord Kapila's Sāṅkhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all bhakti-yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sāṅkhya yoga and bhakti yoga. Sāṅkhya yoga patag bala prabadhandina pandita. Of course, atheistic Sāṅkhya yoga has nothing to do with bhakti yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sāṅkhya yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that buddhi yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of buddhi-yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord. And thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi-yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. So, those verses that Prabhupada has referred here in this purport, those are part of the essential 4 verses of the Gita. And I feel that those can be periodically referred to. They're short enough. It's a full lesson. So he starts there with the statement that's similar to the statement before the Chatushloki Bhagavatam in the 2nd canto, where Krishna says, Ahame vasameva gre nanyan yat sadasatpadam pushtaraham yeta yo vishisheta sosmyaham. We basically saying, I am the source of everything. Ahame vasameva gre. Before anything existed, before all this material universe that you live in existed, I existed. So, which is the definition of God, is that the source of everything. Janma yasya yatomvaya. And then he goes on, to explain. So similarly, beginning in 10:8, 10th chapter, 8th verse, the essential 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya pabhavo mattak sarvam pavartate itimat bhavajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. That I am the source of everything. Everything is emanated from me. He said this from both positions. Okay, you can see the material world, know that it's come from me. You can see me, know that I produced everything. Aham sarvasya bhavavo mattak sarvam pavartate. One who understands this, itimat bhavajante mam, worships me with all his heart, because he's very intelligent. Bhajante mam buddha, back to Buddha, Buddha bhava samanvata, in all respects. How does he worship? What's his, then he gives a wonderful description in the next verse. Mat chitta, mat gata prana, bodhiyantak parasparam, katayantastamam nityam tushandi chadamandicha. So he's saying there, first thing, he places his mind on me. Mat chitta, mat gata prana, and using his life energy to serve me. Mat gata prana. Bodhiyantak paraspadam. And then he meets among other devotees and engages in my glorification. Paraspadam, bodhiyantak paraspadam, katayantas, speaking about me, glorifying. Chamam nityam, always doing that, looking for opportunity to do it. And then tushandi chadamandi. In this way, he sees great satisfaction and spiritual bliss, you see. And then comes the 2 verses, then what does Krishna do on his side? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi-yogam tam yena mamapi yanti te. To those who are thus always glorifying me and serving me, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Satata yuktanam bhajatam priti, they worship me with love. Priti purvakam. Tadami buddhi, I give them the intelligence. He's in the heart. That's the point. He's always there. So he's inspiring and providing us with knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness, right? So he's giving. Tesham sati bhajatam priti dadami buddhi. I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. And then the last verse is so sweet because he continues with the same mood. Tesham evanakam partam ahama jnana jamtamaha nashiyam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashrata, with the shining lamp of knowledge. So to them who are always worshiping in this way, out of my compassion for them. Now this word anukampa, this is language, the Sanskrit language. So what is the kampa? Kampa, we know, is one of the symptoms of ecstasy, right? Trembling, right? Trembling. So anukampa means trembling in sympathy. Anukampa, following. You're trembling and I'm sympathizing to you, so I'm also trembling. So Krishna, he says, it's a word for compassion, or empathy. Out of compassion for them, my devotees who are always thinking of me, as in the previous verse, glorifying me, out of compassion, I destroy their ignorance in their heart with the shining lamp of knowledge. Ahama jnana jam tamaha, with the darkness born of ignorance. and ajnana, born of ajnana jantamaha, nashiyami, I destroy it. Nashiyam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena vaspata. Situated in the heart, I destroy it with the shining lamp of knowledge, from within, just like Brahma. Lord Brahma, he was the first being, there was no one else. Krishna imparted the knowledge from within his heart, right? Tene Brahma Vidaya. The Brahma here is not Brahma. You always got to watch out for those long A's. Brahma is the Vedic knowledge. Brahma, Rida, in the heart. Adi Kavaye, the original learned person. That's Brahma in the first verse of the Bhagavatam. So anyway, so so what is Arjun's response to that? It says, oh, now Param Brahma, Param Dava, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. You are indeed the Supreme Brahman. I realize that, So his answer is also really important, but we'll get to that eventually. So the idea is that Krishna is always ready to help us. He sees us taking some sincere step in his way, trying to chant Hare Krishna, trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, trying to serve him in some kind of way. So if we're doing it sincerely, he's going to give us more and more opportunity and more intelligence how to do the service nicely for his pleasure. And simultaneously, he'll be giving us vairagya. We'll become less interested and less attracted to all the things that distract us life after life in this world. That vairagya is part of the gift that he gives. So that's the process we're in now. Well, now we've come to this thing has gone off. So what should I do? I think we should probably go to our poetry recital. All right, so this is a very interesting section. This whole chapter is so rich and can be studied again and full of memorable verses. So we finished text 39, right? And we'll resume with text 40. But we have a few minutes. So any requests? Or should I spontaneously? We'll try to remember. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so here's a nice little review of Krishna's pastimes. A typical day, he's going out with his friends, right, and to herd the cows. He's, 10 years old maybe. So, with lovely, further, walking in, this is the chapter 21, with lovely peacock plume upon his head and fragrant flower placed upon each ear. He entered Braja's wood with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glowed, his splendid garlands reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way, with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So that's the first. If the painting is a beautiful painting of this. I was there when Muralidhar was painting this. It was just fabulous, when he finally finished it. And it was put outside the temple. We usually chant inside the temple, but I wanted to chant in front of this painting, so I chant out in the hall in front of this painting, dancing a little bit. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Meditate. So now he's free. Now they're out of the town. They're out of the village, and Krishna and Balaram start running along the banks of the Yamuna. These are all paintings, and they're actually in my poetry file, if you have it, the illustration. So Balaram and Krishna are in front, and the boys are all running, the cows are all running after him. It's very beautiful. Let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. Now you have to learn, there's some vocabulary. The word haunt. Now haunt, that's the ghost do. But there's also a noun haunt beside the verb haunt. A haunt is a place where boys would like to, play in the forest. A little place, this cave or that place, this tree, whatever. Those are the forest haunts. And it rhymes with taunts. Oh, you see, okay. Let's go, said Krishna, don't delay at all. And he and Balaram began to run ahead of all their coward friends who called, oh, Krishna, Rama, let us join the fun. And off they went to Braja's forest haunts, to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The sward is a meadow. Not a sword, but a sward. S-W-A-R-D. And off they went to play, where was I? And off they went to play in every bower, grove, and sward. The boys would tease their friend with playful taunts, forgetting his position as the Lord. Shri Krishna is inviting us as well to join him in his pastimes which enthrall. The wise heed Krishna when they hear him tell. Let's go, my friends, do not delay at all. It looks like he's going to blow that conch. Okay, a little early. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.